columnist. He is with us every Monday.
Not yet.
And he joins the sports guys in the evening. Can we just say, we talk a lot about how wrong baseball gets it numerous times, but one of the things they get right is the Jackie Robinson Day.
Oh, yes.
Where they all wear number 42. That is like one of the coolest things in the world, right? That's just a cool.
It is.
It's just really just a nod to the old days. I mean, in 1945, Major League Baseball, was it 40? Was that what it was? Right? 46. I'm sorry, 46.
6, yeah.
46. Well, I know he spent a year up in Minnesota, or up in Montreal. Maybe it was 47.
Yeah, maybe 47.
Yeah, 40.
MVP in 49. Yeah, it was 47.
47, yeah.
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 First African-American.
47.
Yeah.
First African-American to sort of cross the color line. It's kind of neat to see all the players wearing number 42.
Yeah, and the movie and the documentary, you learn and get to hear from him. What a bright man.
Oh, yeah.
What a guy he was.
Veteran, graduate of UCLA.
Right.
Yeah, no, a really interesting guy. Ben Frederickson, we were just talking while we were waiting patiently to get you on the line. We complain about a lot of things Major League Baseball does wrong, but that Jackie Robinson Day is one thing that they get right.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's cool to see the guys get excited about it. I mean, these things, when they roll them out, you can tell what the guys have to do and what they like to do. And Jackie Robinson is a day that all of the players like. It's a day to kind of take a step back and remember, the history of the game and why he was so important to the game, and not just him, but others who followed in his footsteps. But yeah, it's fun, and it's cool to see the players really get on board with it, and they enjoy it. There's a great story on this Cardinals team that has a Jackie Robinson tie. Willie McGee, it's actually in today's paper, but one of the things that Tommy Pham mentioned this past year when he accepted an award at the Baseball Writers Dinner, was how Willie McGee told him in the minors to, hey, think of what Jackie Robinson would think of your decisions when you strike out and come off the field and throw your batting helmet across the dugout and into a wall. I mean, Tommy Pham runs hot, we know that, but that comment from Willie McGee kind of made Pham think. And you'll find the examples of Jackie, not just on the jerseys and on the cleats today and this week, but also kind of in player stories. So that's another way that he continues to be honored in the game.
Yeah, well, that's why Willie McGee is Willie McGee, and he is beloved.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, with all the great things they're doing, can we at least say that Major League Baseball should probably cancel a game if it's freezing cold outside, even though it's not raining?
Well, at some point they're going to have to play these games. So I don't know I saw someone floating the idea of like some sort of jamboree where maybe they go to Milwaukee, put the roof up, and just play a bunch of games back to back to back. But yeah, I mean, it seems oddly unique this year that so many games are being played in frigid conditions, and I'm sure they're getting worried about all the scheduling. I mean, every game is the preference would be to play it, because if you don't, then it messes up the whole dang schedule. You don't want to have teams that are, in the postseason mix playing weird makeup games toward the end of things. So, and the guys like to have off days baked in too. They don't get too many of them. So it just needs to warm up, I think, would be the best thing for everybody. But yeah, it's not exactly thrilling to go out and try to hit in this weather. If something gets in on the hands, it hurts always, even worse when it's this cold. And it's hard for pitchers too, probably, in some ways more so than hitters. I mean, guys who throw cutters, for that example, they can't feel the ball, and they go out and warm up, and they come back in colder than they were when they got out there. So it doesn't quite feel like baseball season yet, but hopefully we're getting that way soon. I won't pretend to be a weather guy, but yeah, this is not good. It's kind of lightly flurrying in downtown St. Louis right now. I don't think anybody's really feeling like it's baseball season.
Yeah, the Central being what it is Cincinnati tanking on purpose and or by accident?
Well, I don't think they want to be this bad. Cincinnati's kind of that dreaded team in the middle usually, where they won't get it together enough to tank, but they won't get it together enough to contend. So they just kind of hover. But this is bad. I mean, this is their worst start since the Great Depression, and it kind of, they look depressing. Their manager's on the hot seat, so that tells you they're not exactly. This isn't a planned tank. And they've got some issues. They're not a very good team, so I think that's important to keep in mind when you look at the Cardinals, what the Cardinals did there. That said, this was a Cardinals team last year that didn't take care of those games. They barely broke even with the Reds last year, and I think they won one game in Cincinnati. Remember they lost that series. They got swept there to start the season. And it was part of that 3-9 kind of malaise, and then everybody was worried about them. Well, this team at least went and took care of business against a team that's really bad. And that's not something you give them a gold star for, but it is something you can point to last season and say, well, they didn't do that last year. You can get pretty far in Major League Baseball now if you're just going to beat up on the bad teams and then, take a shot against the better ones. Because there are a lot of teams that are either going to be as bad as the Reds intentionally or not. So if you can get fat on those teams, then you have a much better chance.
It'd be interesting to do a breakdown on the National League Central because you got the four teams. Forget the Reds for a second, but Pittsburgh, the Cardinals, Milwaukee, and Chicago all have a legitimate shot. And so you're going to play a tough schedule, and you're going to beat everybody up, which ultimately hurts you in the end.
Well, the Reds are probably not going to be in the mix. And the Pirates, I think this is fool's gold a little bit. No pun intended. I just don't buy the Pirates being a real contender in this thing. And I know they're off to a hot start. Nobody expected that. But they just didn't make any sort of improvements to their team. I just don't see this lasting. And I don't think they have the commitment from ownership to improve the team if something goes wrong. Now, maybe if they play well enough, then that changes. But I just don't. I think this is a three-team race, and it's the Cubs and the Brewers and the Cardinals. And the Cardinals kind of missed a shot to kind of give the Brewers a reminder that they should be favored, but they didn't do that. Because now you have another kind of early test here in the trip to Chicago. The Cardinals were as bad as the Reds were. Seemed to be this season. That's how the Cardinals played at Wrigley last year. They won one game. They barely could score 3 runs. The Cubs went off every time. I mean, it was a bad look last year when the Cardinals played the Cubs, especially at Wrigley Field. So I think this series is important, A, because it's the first meeting of the season, but B, because the Cardinals kind of need to get their swagger back at Wrigley. And if they can be competitive there, then that kind of gives this division a little bit more of an interesting look. I think everybody and their mom has picked the Cubs to win it. A lot of people are picking the Brewers to be trendy. That people are tired of seeing the Cardinals, so they pick the Brewers second. And the Cardinals have kind of been relegated to third if you ask somebody from outside of this area. And these games against the Brewers and the Cubs are a chance to say, hey, don't write us off so soon.
Why didn't the Cardinals go after Bartolo Colon in the offseason?
Well, it was kind of funny. I was watching that last night, and I was thinking of spring training because at spring training, someone asked Mike Matheny about pitchers who have kind of changed their game as they've aged to get as they've gotten older, they maybe lost a little bit off their fastball, and they've had to kind of adapt to survive. And the question was about Adam Wainwright, and kind of in referencing pitchers who had successfully done that, Matheny mentioned Bartolo Colon, and it somehow got kind of misinterpreted and got back to Adam that Matheny was comparing him to Bartolo Colon. He didn't like that very much, but I wonder now if Adam might like it a little bit more after that performance Bartolo Colon put up last night.
There's a movie waiting to happen with that guy. I mean, what is he, 40-something years old? He weighs 300-plus pounds, and he almost threw a no-hitter last night?
Yeah, man, he's kind of like Patrick Reed, the guy who won the Masters. Right? He's given us encouragement for all the guys who look like me, so I'll take it.
There you go. Ben Frederickson, STLtoday.com, with us on Mondays and at night with the Sports Guys. Ben.